Hi, this is Bobby Warren, teacher of the Koinonia class, and welcome to Parkview Christian Church's online Sunday school. I hope everybody's doing well and staying safe and healthy as the numbers of the COVID-19 cases continue to increase. So just pray everyone's taking care and loving one another. Okay, last week we looked at God the Redeemer. We saw that God had the desire to save us and he had the power to save us. And we are grateful for that. Now this week, as we continue in our What We Believe Bible study, we're looking at the truth about man, or the truth about humanity, mankind, however you want to term it. You know, in Psalm 8 verse 4, there's a question, starts, what is man? And that is a good question. What are we? What are we made of? I always think, why are we here? And sometimes I can get my mind going really crazy when I think, why am I here at all? Why is there something rather than nothing? So today, we've been using Jack Cottrell's book, His Truth, as kind of our foundation for our lessons. And also, I'm going to be using the class notes from Dr. Johnny Presley's Basic Bible Doctrines, that they used to call BBD, Basic Bible Doctrines. I had Dr. Presley as one of my professors when I was at Cincinnati Bible College and Seminary. So we'll be using his notes as well. So when we look at, what is man, the ancient Greeks looked at the body and thought it was beautiful. Now sometimes, not all Greeks did this. For example, Plato thought the body was the prison of the soul. But the Greek athletes used to compete in the nude because they believed it was the body beautiful, right? And it was just almost like this divine thing. And like I said, Plato thought, the body was the prison of the soul. But when we look at what we're made of material, because Genesis talks about, us being made from the elements of the earth. But we're also spirit, because the Bible talks about, how we're made in the image of God. God is spirit. So, when we look at what is man made of, there are really three options. One is that we're just made out of matter. Two, we're just spirit. Three, we're a mixture of both. And you can find people who support, all three positions. For example, Mary Baker Eddy, founder of the denomination Christian Science, she wrote this in her Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. There is no life, truth, intelligence, nor substance in matter. All is infinite mind and its infinite manifestation, for God is all in all. Spirit is immortal truth. Matter is mortal error. Spirit is the real and eternal. Matter is the unreal and temporal. Spirit is God, and man is his image and likeness. Therefore, she concludes, man is not material, he is spiritual. Jack Cottrell writes in His Truth, the view that man is matter or body only is much more common in today's world. We are not surprised that secular materialists defend this idea, since they deny any kind of spiritual existence. whether it be divine, angelic, or human. But this view is widespread in the religious world as well. That man has no spiritual essence called soul or spirit is a principal teaching of several major cults. Some contemporary liberal Christians teach the same thing, claiming to be following authentic Hebrew thought rather than perverted Greek philosophy. Actually, they have chosen the secular materialism over biblical teaching. So says Jack Cottrell. So in a materialistic world, matter becomes everything. There is nothing spiritual. So God did not create the heavens and the earth. God did not create us. So life happened by accident. And, we've mentioned this before in an earlier lesson. If God did not create us, there is no purpose to anything. There is no set established moral code. Who gets to decide what is right and what is wrong? If we are merely matter, where does our sense of worth come from? Where does our sense of purpose come from? Why do we need to love one another? Why aren't we just everyone looking out for himself? So I think the biblical view is that man is made of spirit and he's made of matter. So we're a combination of the two. Now sometimes people say that humans are tripartite, so there's three parts. There's the body, soul, and the spirit. Others see the soul and spirit as basically the same thing, and that if there's a distinction, there's not much. I really can be swayed either way, depending on the day of the week. I think both arguments have merit, and I've not really settled on whether we're just two parts, body and spirit, or body and soul, or three parts, body, soul, and spirit. But you might have a clearer understanding of this, and feel free to mention something in the comments. But as we look at the nature of man, and we look at man as body and as spirit, I want to share some Bible verses with you. In Ecclesiastes 12:7, it says, "And the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it." So, we were made from the dust of the earth, and God breathed life into our nostrils. And so the material part of us returns to the ground it came from when we die, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. So there's an indication of this, of humans being matter and spirit. Matthew 10:28, Jesus says, "Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell." Again, we see this distinction between the body as being material and the body as being spirit or soul. So I think we could see from the Bible that we are matter and we are spirit. Now, going back to Mary Baker Eddy, who was, saw matter as this mortal error. Well, throughout the creation account in Genesis 1, at the end of every day, God said his creation was good. After he creates man, in Genesis 1:31, it said, "God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning the sixth day." So after he made us who have matter and who have spirit, he said it was very good. So uh, I do not see matter as being evil. I don't see spiritual as being superior. We are both. Dr. Presley says there is no biblical basis for the idea that material things are inherently evil and that man's body is imprisoning man's spirit. Man's dual nature, body and soul/spirit, appears to have been designed to enable man to relate to both creation and to God. So I like that, because we have responsibilities here to be good stewards of the earth that God gave to us, to love one another, to serve rather than be served. So we have responsibilities to our fellow humans and this creation, and also we have responsibilities and obligations to worship and honor God. I think that through the Spirit, we can connect with God, and through our humanness, we can connect to God's creation. And Dr. Presley says that the dual nature of man will continue throughout eternity as the spirit of man receives some type of resurrection body, which, though it is of a spiritual nature, is still identified as a body. And this comes from 1 Corinthians 15, and I'm going to read an extended passage from 35 through 44. Paul writes, and this is a section on the resurrection. Paul writes beginning in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 35, "But someone will ask, how are the dead raised? With what kind of body will they come? How foolish! What you sow does not come to life unless it dies. When you sow, you do not plant the body that will be, but just a seed, perhaps of wheat or of something else. But God gives it a body as he has determined, and to each kind of seed he gives his own body. Not all flesh is the same. People have one kind of flesh, animals have another, birds another, and fish another. There are also heavenly bodies and there are earthly bodies. But the splendor of the heavenly bodies is one kind, and the splendor of the earthly bodies is another. The sun has one kind of splendor, the moon another, and the stars another. And star differs from star in splendor. So will it be with the resurrection of the dead. The body that is sown is perishable, it is raised imperishable. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. If there is a natural body, there is also a spiritual body. So, in heaven, we're going to have a body as well. It's going to be a spiritual body. Now, what is that? I don't know. But that's what Paul tells us in the Bible. With the biblical view that man is a combination of body and spirit, Jack Cottrell sees 6 implications from this. 1, that body and spirit are not natural enemies, and they do not need some third entity to hold them together. 2, man is just as genuinely body as he is spirit. Both are the real person. 3, sin affects the whole person, body and spirit. 4, death is abnormal because it divides the whole person, separating soul from body. 5, salvation involves the whole person, body and spirit. Salvation is not just an escape from the body. We do not just save people's souls. their bodies are redeemed too. And finally, number 6, man as a unity of body and spirit is uniquely equipped to relate both to God and to the world. We are also created in the image of God. In Genesis 1:26 and 27 it says, "Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So we see here that God is saying, let us make mankind in our image. We know from Gospel of John that Jesus was involved in creation, and we know that the Spirit was hovering over the deep during creation. So all three persons of the Godhead, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit, were involved in creation. What does it mean that we're created in the image of God? Johnny Presley says that the Bible never really explains what the image of God is, but he believes there are some reasonable assumptions that can be made based on the biblical teaching regarding the nature of God. The image of God probably encompasses the spiritual element of man's nature. He says that the image of God would not be our physical bodies, because God is described as being invisible and being spiritual. In Deuteronomy 4:12, Moses says, "Then the Lord spoke to you out of the fire. You heard the sound of words, but saw no form. There was only a voice." So didn't get to see God because he is spirit. Also, John 4:24 says, "God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth." So Dr. Presley goes on to say that the image of God probably encompasses man's moral character. The image of God would not be God's infinite qualities. He is eternal. We are not. We are created. He's omnipresent. He can be anywhere at any time. He's omniscient. He's all-knowing. He's omnipotent, which is he's all-powerful. So we're not any of those. So he is, all-powerful, all-knowing, and able to be anywhere at any time, and we're not, because we're limited, finite creatures. So we don't have those qualities. Presley also writes that the point of similarity here would be man's ability to make moral decisions and imitate God's moral attributes. Remember, without God, where do we derive our morality from? What objective entity is out there that can definitively say this is right and this is wrong? There would be none. So Dr. Presley writes about some of the significant implications from the idea of man being created in the image of God. Dr. Presley writes, "Human life is to be considered qualitatively different from animal life, for which there is no reference to being created in the image of God." So only humans are created in the image of God. So we have a different quality. It's not that we can't love our animals, which we do. We have a dog, Oni, and 3 cats, Mr. Thomas, Nikki, and Izzy. And we love them. We don't have any kids, so they're our babies. But humans are qualitatively different. And so, because of that, because of this fact that we are created in the image of God, all human beings are to be treated with a certain amount of respect in order not to give offense to God, whose image they bear. You think about our political climate today. It is amazing how people are treated just because of different political beliefs. We know that around the world, uh, people are tortured, beaten, punished for their religious beliefs, their political beliefs. And we need to recognize that we're all created in the image of God. We all have worth and value. And I hope we can get to the point where we stop looking at people who believe differently as our enemies. Now, maybe, when we look at, people who deny the existence of God, we need to be careful, like, even though they may be at war with God, how do we respond to them? I mean, it's tough, but, you know, in our small group, we were talking about how, Jesus loved and ministered to the marginalized of our society and the outcasts of society. You know, if we're only going to interact with those who are just like us, we become a social club and we quit being a church. We need to be careful about that. So, kind of wrapping up this week's lesson, you know, man is made of matter and spirit. We're made in the image of God, and because we're made in the image of God, we really need to be careful how we treat others who also bear God's image. Next week is going to be a fun lesson. We talk about sin. We knew we were going to get there sooner or later. So, be prepared. Let's talk about sin. All right. So, thanks for spending time with us this week with Parkview's online Sunday School. And thanks for being part of this What We Believe series. And I pray that you have a great week and God will bless you. Take care. We'll see you again.